I really hope this video is in focus because the last couple of times I tried to film it, it hasn't been, and I'm feeling triggered. Anyway guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you the books that I think will leave you feeling spooked. So I'll be giving some recommendations of books that you should read this spooky season. So without further ado, grab your beverage of choice and let's get into it. So the first book I want to talk about is called Penpal by Dathan Auerbach. Now, I really hope I'm pronouncing this guy's name right. Apologies if I'm not. But Dathan Auerbach is an American author, and Penpal is his first novel, which was published in 2012. It was actually self-published by the author. So this book was actually based on a series of stories that the author had previously published on Creepypasta, the Reddit site, and then he collated all those stories together and made it into a novel. So we follow our main unnamed narrator as he details the events of his life, starting from quite early childhood up until adulthood, in which he has experiences with a stalker. I genuinely find the idea of a stalker a lot scarier than the idea of a ghost or entity following you around, because obviously a stalker is a real person that could actually inflict quite real damage to you if they wanted to, and that really unsettles me. So I thought this was a really good creepy book. I don't want to say too much about it because I don't want to give it away, but there is one particular scene in this book, and it's right at the start. Basically, our unnamed narrator is being sent a lot of photos that don't seem to have any importance or relevance to him. They're just kind of random. But then he ends up looking at all these photos and realises that he is actually in every single one. And the way that just gave me the chills when I read it, I was like, oh no. So I really enjoyed this book, and I think it's the perfect book for spooky season. So enjoy. The second book I want to talk about is called Stolen Tongues, and that is by the author Felix Blackwell. So in Stolen Tongues, our main characters, Felix and Faye, decide to go on a lovely romantic cabin getaway to celebrate their recent engagement. However, that quickly turns into a nightmare when they start hearing really strange, horrifying sounds coming from outside the cabin, and those sounds even start to morph into the voices of people that they know. So this book deals with the Native American lore of skinwalkers or mimics. If you're not familiar with this type of entity, a skinwalker or a mimic is an entity that can take on the form and vocals of someone that you know to gain access into your home or to lure you outside. And the idea of that is just so creepy. I thought this author did really well also at portraying Native American characters not just as stereotypical caricatures. Like, the Native American characters in this novel were actually seemed like real people with real lives and backstories, and I personally thought he did that really well. So yeah, this was an interesting one. I think the lore of skinwalkers and mimics are just really fascinating and so unsettling. It's definitely a good one to sink your teeth into. The next book I want to share is one I just finished reading recently, and that's called Slewfoot by Brom. So Slewfoot is set in colonial New England in 1666 in Connecticut, to be exact. So it's Puritan vibes, think Salem witch trials, think the little bonnets and the white dresses and the buckles on the shoes and the hats. That's the kind of vibe. And Slewfoot is really a tale of magic and mystery. The basic synopsis is an ancient spirit has awakened deep in the woods behind our main character Abatha's home. Now, Abatha, our main character, is recently widowed, and she is a bit of an outcast from the community. They don't really like her because she is a bit of a headstrong, opinionated, outspoken woman that has decided to fend for herself after the unfortunate death of her husband, and this is not taken well by the community. They do not like this, and they make life very difficult for Abatha, which is a shame. What I really liked about this book is that it features over 24 of Brom's artwork. Now, I'm a bit new to the horror genre in the bookish community. I watch a lot of horror films and like podcasts and things like that, but I don't tend to read a lot of horror books up until this last year. So I didn't know who Brom was. I wasn't familiar with his work, but he's actually a horror artist. And at the start of every chapter in Slewfoot, we get a little bit of his artwork that kind of is a little teaser as to what we're going to find in that following chapter. I wish I'd known this before I downloaded the book on my Kindle, because I originally wanted to buy the hardback because I really liked the cover, but then I looked at the price and I think it was like 23 or 24 pounds, and I just thought it was a little bit pricey for just one singular hardback book. So I thought I'll just download it on my Kindle. But now, seeing the artwork and how beautiful it looks just on the Kindle, I can only imagine how beautiful it would look on the printed page, and I really wish I'd bought the hardback copy. So if you are going to read this book, I would just spend the money and buy the hardback, because I honestly think it would be worth it. And last but not least, we're going to give a little honourable mention to The Woman in Black by Susan Hill, because I think this is a bit of a classic in terms of creepy books to read during spooky season. So The Woman in Black is a 1983 gothic horror novel in which we follow Arthur Kipps as he is sent out to deal with the estate that's left by a recently widowed woman on Eel Marsh, and he encounters the entity known as the Woman in Black. So we're probably familiar with this, we've probably all seen the Daniel Radcliffe film, but even if you have, I would still recommend reading this book. It is still pretty creepy. It's really short, so if you want to just up your number on your Goodreads challenge, you'll probably get through this in about a night. And I do think it's suitably creepy. It's not the scariest book by far on this list. It's not quite as scary as I had anticipated. But the first time we see the Woman in Black genuinely gave me chills. Like, goosebumps, my eyes were watering. Yeah, the first time we see her is very, very well written. It's very, very chilling. So I think this is a good one. It's maybe a little bit more of a cosy one because it's a bit more familiar. And as I say, it's quite short. You'll probably get through it in a night. So yeah, those were just some of my spooky book recommendations for spooky season. Please let me know if you've read any of these or if you're looking forward to reading them after hearing me talk about them. Leave me a comment below. You can follow me on TikTok. I make more bookish content over there. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.